I had an absolutely unhinged slash feral reading month. In October, I read 14 books, which is my new best. Previous best was 12 I read in July, which I was so proud of. And the only reason I read this many books is, first of all, I have no social life. Second of all, I'm depressed and I would prefer to live in books than my real life sometimes. And third of all, I have a lot of spare time. I guess that correlates with having no social life. Fourth is I am doing this series on my Instagram and my TikTok and on my YouTube Shorts where I am trying to read my entire physical TBR before the end of the year. But secretly, I want to get it done before like mid-December because I really want to read Christmas books. I have not been giving myself a break. I've been reading like crazy, thus reading 14 whole books in the month of October. But honestly, I had some real bangers. I had some really good ones. There were not a lot of low-rated books, honestly. So I'm going to tell you all about them. Prepare for me to yap for a long time. If you want to go grab some coffee or a little snack, I'll wait. Okay, you're back. Great. Okay, Once Upon a Broken Heart. Also, well, really the trilogy. And I didn't read these back to back. I read the first one and then I had to order the next two. So really, this was on my physical TBR and these two weren't. But after I read this book, I had to immediately order the sequels. I'm going to try and separate them in my mind so I can give accurately like which one I'm giving each. This one I'm giving 4 stars. It was really cute. So this is the story about a girl who her fiance is about to marry her stepsister, and so she goes to the Lord of Hearts, I think. What is he called? Do I forget already? The Prince of Hearts. He's not a lord. She goes to the Prince of Hearts and she like makes a wish. She's like, help me out, my dude. But he's all devious and he's like, okay, but there's a catch and all this stuff. And his curse is that he can't kiss anybody without killing them. Like he can only kiss his true love and survive. So he's just leaving like a trail of dead ladies behind him. Shenanigans ensue. This is a YA series, which just means it's young adult, like, and that doesn't mean it's not mature, but it does mean like there's no spice, which is fine. I don't need spice in any of my books. It doesn't have spice and it just reads a little bit young. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm approaching 30, and so sometimes these books can teeter just feeling like a little bit young for me, just in terms of like writing styles and language, if I'm honest. Not even like necessarily subject material, but just the tone of the writing. And that's why this one got 4 stars, but it was still like really cute and it was enough to like keep me going. And so I got the sequels, which were both 5 stars. Let me also just say I absolutely hate that there is no paperback out for the third book. I prefer hardbacks overall, but now this is mismatched on my bookshelf. It's fine. Both of these ended up being 5 stars. I thought they were really good, really cute. They wrapped up really well. And like, ooh, there's nothing like a forbidden love or like, not even like an enemies to lovers, but obviously he couldn't kiss her without fear of killing her. And it's like, are we going to deny that they're falling in love? Like, it was just cute and it was done really well. I had a really good time with the entire trilogy. So, so cute. Then we took a wild left turn with the mother thing. This is a horror novel, and I don't read a lot of horror novels. It was like, honestly, not even 300 pages. It was quite short. I think I read this in a day. I read a lot of books in a day. Not one single day, but I read a few books each within their own day, which attributed to the wild number on my wrap up. So this is a story about a woman and her husband who move in with his mother because she's unwell mentally. She ends up offing herself and then she haunts them. And this took such a dark, wild turn that I was not prepared for. I was honestly like really shocked, but it was so good and it was done so well. And I love the overarching theme of like the mother thing, like having this mother thing figure in your life, maybe because yours wasn't the mother that you needed or the mother that you wanted. Like she talks about as a child, like the couch in the basement was like a mother thing because it was like a warm hug. It was a safe place. It was just something to project kind of this idea of safety and peace onto. And I thought that was really good because like if you don't grow up with a good mother. Like, you might be searching for that in other places, in other people, in other things. Like, I just loved the overarching theme of that as well, especially because our main couple also like wants to have a child. So it was all just very good, very well done. Kind of horrific, but in a good way. And then of course I had to read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe and the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Laura Gilmore. Listen, I gave these books each, I think, 3 stars. What you see is what you get. There is nothing deep. These aren't I should start by saying these aren't necessarily sequels, but they're set in the same small town, so a lot of the characters like overlap between books. There's a Christmas one that I think just came out, so I'm gonna pick that up. I'm gonna read that this Christmas. They're not deep. They're not transformative. They're nothing crazy new. This is predictable, small town, people falling in love. And there's a comfort to that. There's a safety to that. It's very Gilmore Girls vibes. That's exactly what the author was going for. It's very fall vibes, which is what the author was going for. It was like, okay, I love Hallmark movies. I really do. And this is coming from somebody who is a film snob, somebody who studied film. But I love the predictability. I love the comfort. I love the cheesiness. So I think that translates to books as well. I love Hallmark books. I love just, you know exactly what you're getting into. And there's a safety and a comfort in that I just love. And then Midnight Sun. I did a whole reading vlog on this. I'll link it down below. If you haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to watch it. I don't want to spend too much time on it now. I gave this one 4 stars. The sun just went away. Oh no, Midnight Sun, where'd you go? I gave this one 4 stars. This is the original Twilight book, the original Twilight movie from Edward's perspective. It was a little bit too long, which is what kept me from giving it like 5 stars. I think I would give the original Twilight 5 stars just because I love it. Whether it's ironic or not, I genuinely love it. But this one, there's a couple times where it was like, Edward, I think you need to shut up now. Like, I know you don't sleep. I know you also don't have a social life outside of Bella, but there was some moments where he was just going on, and I was like, okay, buddy, it's time to wrap it up. But I did learn a whole lot more about the vampires, about Edward, about his feelings. It was a good time, 4 stars. Then I read Wayward, which is kind of like a witchy novel, but not really. The story follows 3 different women from the same bloodline, like the same family, the same lineage, through different periods of time. So one is a modern day, one is like World War II, and then one is the 1600s. Yeah, so in the 1600s, that woman is being tried for witchcraft. In the World War II timeline, it's just kind of like the exact problems of that time of women not being believed, women not being supported and listened to or allowed to pursue what they want to pursue. And then in our modern day timeline, we have a woman running away from an abusive relationship, an abusive situation. This book, it made me cry. This was a story about perseverance, about feminism, about women just getting stuff done and taking care of themselves, and also just the way we connect with nature and how nature plays a huge part in womanhood in general. I just thought it was a really beautiful and compelling story. I was rooting for all of these women, and it was a really good story. It's not like a lighthearted witchy novel, and it's not really even like a witchy novel. Like, our original woman is being tried for witchcraft, but it's just kind of like the practice of herbs and medicines and that kind of stuff. So it was very good. And then I read The Cemetery of Untold Stories, which is quite a thin book. This book follows an author who quite literally gets a plot of land and creates a cemetery for all of her manuscripts and all of her stories that will never be published. So she literally makes headstones, she digs holes, she either burns the manuscripts or she just buries them because a couple of them like won't burn. And then at nighttime they talk to whoever will listen. She has a manuscript about her dad, about a famous woman in politics, and their stories, and they kind of talk to whoever will listen. I think there's less about the actual author who buries these manuscripts versus the stories that they're telling and the people who come and listen to these stories. It was just really a beautiful story. I thought it was really well done. It was not long by any means, but it was like a really good read. And I love that these stories, they're still able to be told even if they're not being published. I don't know. I'm going on a rampage now. It was a very good story. And then, to lighten the mood, I read Love Theoretically. This is my first Allie Hazelwood book. This was so fun and cute. This is a story about like opposing rival scientists who fall in love. It was very well done. It was very engaging. Again, I think Allie Hazelwood, oh my gosh, can I speak? Allie Hazelwood has kind of like an entire genre of like STEM romances, so I want to read the rest of them because this was really cute. I don't normally go for blonde men, but this guy had it going on. I think it's like 4 stars because it's very good, but I think 5 stars for me needs to be life-changing. Throne of the Fallen. Ooh, this was a big boy, and I'll just say right now I DNF'd it, so I can't give it a rating. If I were to rate it based on the 400 pages that I did read, I would give it a 1 star. And now hear me out. If you like this book, that's totally good. I'm not judging anyone who likes this book. I don't like what I'm about to say may sound weird, but like this was far too sexual for me. It just felt very crass, and not in like a lightly smutty way. That's kind of fun. This is obviously not obviously, maybe you don't know the plot, but this is the story about a prince of hell and a woman who like travel through the underworld for like a game, but like a serious game. It's like his kingdom is on the line. Anyway, I did a poor job explaining that, but like plot alone, that sounds so fascinating, and that sounds like something that's right up my alley. But it was just, there was way too much. Like we couldn't get through a single sentence or a single paragraph without so many like sexual comments being made that just made me feel uncomfortable. So I have no problem if that's for you, but for me personally, like the plot did not outweigh the content. It just felt like a lot of it was so unnecessary. So, and I'm surprised I read as much as I did. I really kept hoping for the plot to get better, but at a point I was just like, why am I doing this to myself? I'm not enjoying what I'm reading, so I'm not going to finish reading it. And that's all I have to say. I'm sorry. I know some people really like that book, and that's good. And there's nothing wrong if you like that book. It just wasn't for me. It just didn't make me feel comfortable. That was kind of my limit. Then I read Bright Young Women. This is the story about, okay, how do I explain this? So there is a woman in a sorority, and her friend is killed in the middle of the night by a serial killer. And then a woman from out of town gets in contact with her. She was like, hey, my friend was also killed by a serial killer 4 years ago. I think it's the same person. And so it kind of spans the events following each of these characters and the deaths of those in their lives and just kind of what the media does to serial killers. It was very Ted Bundy inspired, I think, because we go through like the media finding our perpetrator like very attractive. They're like, how could he do this? Like, he's so hot. There was a lot of that nuance and a lot of that conversation, and I really like that. Makes me emotional now again to think about it. I love it when books make me emotional. I love stories of resilient women, and I love the honest conversation of how the media treats women and how men treat women and how women treat other women. Like, I feel like these are all very important conversations to be had, and also just like the media's obsession with true crime. But like this takes place in the 70s, so way before social media or true crime podcasts, really. But it was a very good, really compelling read. And then I read the first book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I hope I'm saying that right. Sometimes, do you ever just like pronounce names when you're reading a book wrong, but you don't know that you pronounced them wrong, but then it's embedded in your brain, and so now you're always going to say it wrong? I feel like that happens to me a lot, and then I speak on the internet and I'm like, wow, I'm an idiot. Anyway, the first book in that series, it's The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is a vampire trials book. 5 stars. I ate it up. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I had such a good time. I feel like in the fantasy world, we're always trying to do like trials. And I feel like it's so rarely done well, but I thought that this was done well. And we have our vampire and human, like forbidden love, enemies to lovers, all of that good stuff. It took such a wild turn in the last 50 pages that I was not prepared for, and that's my favorite thing. That's my favorite thing when a book does that. When the last 100 to 50 pages just takes you on such a wild ride. It's like, hold tight. here we go, especially when you know that it's a series. So I don't know, because I'm still trying to only read my physical TBR and I have like 10 more books on it. I don't know if I'm going to buy the sequels, but I can't stop thinking about it. I will eventually get the sequels because I will not leave this unread, but I'm just like, do I read the rest of my physical TBR or do I do what I did with Once Upon a Broken Heart and immediately buy the sequels? I don't know. You're going to have to tell me. But like 5 stars. This was a good read. And then I finished off the month with Such Sharp Teeth. This is obviously a werewolf novel. This is a story about a woman who she's driving in her car, she hits a deer, she gets out, she's chased by a werewolf, and she's bitten, and she slowly becomes a werewolf. This book it wasn't horror in the traditional sense. It was horror in like the traumatic sense and not even like on a serious level. But I loved the conversation of, oh, I don't know if I want to spoil it. I don't know. Okay, if you plan to read this, click out now because I'm going to kind of spoil the theme of the book. But the theme is kind of like the werewolf could be trauma, right? Like finding somebody who's going to love you despite the fact that you're a werewolf, despite the fact that you have all this trauma and baggage and you're not perfect. Like, I just loved that. I thought it was so clever. It was so well done. It was kind of funny. It was kind of serious. It was kind of monster book. Like, there was nothing I didn't love about this book. I think, honestly, I'm giving it 5 stars. I need to read everything else that Rachel Harrison has written, because the way she handles female stories, the way she handles trauma and relationships, I thought was so well. And it didn't help that I could relate to a number of the traumas that our main character went through. But that just makes it hit all the more hard, and I enjoyed it a lot. Okay, that is going to do it for my October wrap-up. I will never have another month this good, I don't think. I mean, I didn't think I was going to have a month better than July, but October was so good. Make sure you're following me on Instagram and TikTok or keeping up with my shorts because I'm updating my physical TBR challenge. But other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful start to November, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.